Welcome to Knowledge Search channel. In this video, we will be discussing about what are energy sources and its types. As well, in previous video, we discussed about what is a voltage source. Whereas in this video, we will be discussing about what is a current source. Okay. So, in previous video, we have discussed about what is a voltage source and what are its characteristics and what are its types and all those things. Whereas in this case, in this video, we will be discussing only about the current source and its types and its characteristics. Okay. And I will also give you a brief idea of what is a current source and all those things. Okay. So let us move on. So you can see that previous video we have discussed about the voltage source. As we have already discussed, the energy sources are broadly classified into voltage source and current source. Okay. So in this video, we will be discussing only about the current source, not about the voltage source. So if you have any doubts in understanding what is voltage source, you can go to the previous video and you can check on my channel. Okay. So let's move on with the details of current source. So here in this video, we will be discussing about, so here in this video, we will be discussing about the current source. Okay. This current. Okay. So current source will be discussing. Okay. So here I will be discussing about the ideal current source. I will be discussing about the practical current source and all those things we will be discussing. And also we will be discussing about the characteristics and what are the circuits. Okay. And all those things. So related with the ideal current source as well as the practical current source we will be discussing. Okay. So as you all know, what do you mean by current source? So current source is nothing but the current is always same. So what do you mean by current source? So the current is always same irrespective of change in load. Okay. That is, the voltage magnitude will be changing according to the load requirement. So what is power? Power is nothing but voltage into current. Power is nothing but voltage into current. So if we keep one parameter constant, that is current as constant, the voltage magnitude will be changing in order to change the power requirement of the load side. So that is called as the current source. So there are two different types. One is the ideal, the other one is the practical. So we will be discussing about the characteristics and what are the how the circuit looks like and all those things in the upcoming slides. So you are clear with the ideal current source. There are two types. One is ideal current source, the other one is a practical current source. So in case of the ideal current source, you can see that the symbol for the current source is something like this. Okay, so here you can see that the current, you put an arrow mark. So this is the symbol for the current source. So here you can see that in case of ideal current source, there is no source resistance. The source resistance is not there. So which is not practically possible. So in case of practical circuit, we also include this source resistance, whereas in case of ideal, we will not be including this source resistance. So since the source resistance is absent, you can see that the current always remains constant irrespective of change in voltage. Irrespective of, for example, if the load requires less power, then we can deliver it at the less voltage. But the current always remains same. So it is not going to change according to the load requirements. Only the voltage magnitude is keeping changing. From the graph itself, you can understand it is a plot between voltage and current in x and y axis. Okay. So here you can see that the voltage is changing in x axis, whereas the current remains constant in case of the in y axis. So this is called as the ideal current source. Yes, any circuit which is having the characteristics something look like this, this is called as a current source. Okay. So what do you mean by then practical current source? But practically, you know that every element in this mother earth is having some small resistance. So sometimes, you know, we just try to exclude that resistance in order to give a very good result, or in order to simplify the result. Okay. So in order to simplify the result, we just exclude that. Okay. In some cases. So there is no ideal actually, but we just for theoretical purposes we just exclude the source resistance. Okay. So here in case of the practical current source, you can see that resistance is connected in parallel, whereas in case of the voltage source, the source resistance was connected in series, whereas in case of current source, always the current it always divides. So you can see that when the source resistance is very less, then so according to the magnitude of the source resistance, you can see that the current will be delivered to the it will be supplying self. Is it right? So a self discharge will be there. So always the source resistance in case of the current source should be very high. It should be an open circuit. Okay. Whereas in case of voltage source, it will be short circuit. So here you can see that as the resistance, okay, as the you can see that as the voltage increases, in case of the practical, it has been drawn on the solid lines, whereas in case of the ideal, it is drawn on the dotted lines. So it is looking something like this. So this is all about a current source, okay. So here you can see that this is the circuit actually. So here you can see that the resistance, the parallel, that is the resistance, there is a source resistance which is connected in parallel. That is why I mentioned it as RP. So it is open circuit, that is infinity. Whereas in case of practical circuit, you can see that RP is having some value. Okay. So always in case of ideal, it will be equal to infinity. Whereas in case of practical source, it will be having some value. So this is how it looks like in case of a current source. Okay. Hope you are clear with what is a current source and what are its types, that is ideal power source and ideal current source and practical current source. And we have discussed about the characteristics. So really hope that you enjoyed this video and you came to a understanding of how this current source works. If you really like this video, please give a thumbs up. As well, if you have any doubts, you can just comment. And if you have any anyone, if you feel that anyone that they are preparing for electrical engineering courses, you can just share this video. It will be helpful for them. As well, if you really like this video and whatever the videos I have posted in the previous in this channel, you just give a subscribe button, and it will be a good motivating factor for me. Thank you.